Alex Eala destroys a reporter after an insulting question, leaving the audience and fans around the world stunned. What started as a routine post-match interview quickly turned into a viral moment. The reporter's words were sharp, provocative, designed to unnerve her. But Alex didn't flinch, didn't stumble, and didn't give in. Her response was measured, confident, and unforgettable. In just a few words, she reminded the world why she is a rising star. Social media erupted, fans rallied, and the tennis world took notice. This was more than a comeback. It was a statement of power. Every athlete, every fan, and every critic watched as Alex turned insult into triumph. Her composure and courage in that moment spoke louder than any victory on court. And for many, it became a lesson in handling pressure with dignity and strength. From the moment Alex Eala first stepped onto a tennis court, it was clear she was different. There was a spark in her eyes, a quiet intensity that set her apart from other young players. Born and raised in Manila, she grew up in a family that valued hard work and discipline above all else. Tennis was more than just a sport for Alex. It was a dream, a way to show the world that talent, combined with dedication, could overcome even the toughest obstacles. By her early teens, she had already started winning junior tournaments, defeating opponents who were older, stronger, and more experienced. But it wasn't just her victories that captured attention. It was the way she carried herself, with poise and confidence far beyond her years. Alex's rise wasn't easy. Traveling from tournament to tournament, living away from home, and carrying the hopes of a nation was a weight most adults would struggle with, let alone a teenager. Yet she embraced the challenge. Early mornings on the practice courts, hours of conditioning, and countless matches taught her resilience. Every loss became a lesson, every victory a stepping stone. People began to notice not just her skill, but her mental toughness. She had a rare ability to stay calm under pressure, to keep her focus even when the odds were stacked against her. Coaches and fans alike described her as mature beyond her years and someone destined for greatness. As Alex's rise grew, so did the attention. She became a national symbol representing the Philippines on the international stage. With every tournament, she carried not only her racket, but the expectations of thousands who saw themselves in her journey. Media coverage increased, interviews became more frequent, and every performance was analyzed and dissected. Some praised her brilliance, others questioned whether a young player could handle the pressure. But Alex learned to use the spotlight to her advantage, understanding that attention, like pressure, could be harnessed to fuel her ambition. By the time she entered her first high-profile professional tournaments, Alex had already developed a mindset few athletes possess at such a young age. She treated each match as a test of not only skill, but character. Opponents who underestimated her quickly learned that her talent came with determination and mental fortitude. Fans began to follow her matches not just for the tennis, but for the story of a young woman refusing to be defined by age, gender, or expectation. And yet, for all her early success, Alex's journey was just beginning. She had faced victories and setbacks, applause and criticism, but nothing could have prepared her for the defining moment that was about to arrive. A post-match interview that would challenge her in ways far beyond the court. The stage was set for a confrontation that would reveal not only her skill as a player, but the strength of her spirit. In that moment, Alex Eala would show the world that greatness isn't only measured in titles. It's measured in courage, composure, and the ability to rise above every challenge. It was supposed to be a routine post-match interview. Alex Eala had just finished a long, hard-fought match, her body aching, her mind still racing through every point. The win was solid, the effort undeniable, and yet the tension in the press room hinted that this exchange would be anything but ordinary. Cameras clicked, Flashes popped, and the soft murmur of reporters filled the room, waiting for her words. Among them, one question was about to change the course of that moment, transforming it into something far more significant. The reporter leaned forward, a slight smirk on his face, and asked, "Are you really sure you belong at this level, given your recent performances?" The words were carefully chosen, polite enough on the surface, but sharp enough to sting. In an instant, the room shifted. Some reporters stiffened, sensing the provocation. Others whispered, curious to see how Alex would respond. For many, this was just another question in a line of press room jabs, but for Alex, it was a test, not of her skill on court, but of her character, her composure, her ability to remain unshaken in the face of doubt. The silence that followed was almost tangible. Alex's jaw tightened, her hands gripped the edge of the table, and her eyes met the reporters with a calm intensity that belied the whirlwind inside her mind. Every young athlete has faced questions designed to provoke, to highlight weakness, to shake confidence. But few have the poise to transform a moment of potential humiliation into a display of strength. And Alex did just that. She took a measured breath, paused, and then spoke, her voice calm, deliberate, and sharp. Confidence isn't measured by a few losses. It's measured by how you rise after them. The words struck the room like a sudden clap of thunder. The reporter had expected defensiveness, perhaps even hesitation or flustered nerves. Instead, Alex had delivered a response that was both dignified and unyielding. She didn't attack, she didn't argue, she simply reminded the world of her resilience. The reaction was immediate. Cameras continued clicking, but the tone had shifted. Reporters exchanged surprised glances. Some muttered, "Wow, did she just say that?" While others instinctively started rethinking their angle. Across social media, clips of the exchange began spreading like wildfire. Fans from the Philippines and beyond shared, commented, and praised Alex's composure. "Absolute queen," one post read. "That's how you handle disrespect," another said. Within hours, hashtags like "Watch Me Rise" and "Eala Strong" were trending, and the tennis world buzzed with admiration and debate. This moment would later be remembered not for the question itself, but for Alex's response. A brief, powerful statement that showcased a rare blend of intelligence, courage, and mental toughness. In less than 30 seconds, she had turned a potentially humiliating confrontation into a defining statement about who she was. A rising star who refused to be shaken, a young athlete whose spirit and confidence could not be questioned. By the time she left the press room, the air was electric. She had not just defended herself, she had made a statement to every critic, every doubter, and every fan watching. Alex Eala rises above no matter the challenge. The moment Alex Eala spoke those words, the world began to take notice. Social media exploded almost instantly. Clips of the post-match exchange circulated across Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, garnering thousands of views within minutes. Fans shared the moment with captions like, "Alex Eala shuts down disrespect. Confidence like no other. And this is how champions handle pressure." The energy online was electric. Suddenly, what had been a quiet tournament interview became a global conversation about courage, composure, and respect. Support poured in from every corner. Filipino fans expressed immense pride, flooding her post with messages of admiration. "She didn't just answer, she taught us a lesson," wrote one viewer. "I wish I could respond to criticism with that much grace," said another. But it wasn't just casual fans who were impressed. Former players, commentators, and sports analysts began weighing in, dissecting her poise and the way she handled the jab. Many described it as a masterclass in mental strength, noting that most athletes would have stumbled or offered a defensive reply. The media, of course, had a field day. Some articles praised her composure, calling it an unforgettable display of maturity and intelligence.
Others questioned whether the reporter's question was fair or unnecessarily provocative. Debates sprang up about journalistic ethics in sports, with discussions on whether young athletes, especially rising female stars, were subjected to unfair scrutiny. Alex's response had inadvertently sparked a larger conversation about how women in sport are treated under the media spotlight, adding layers of social significance to a moment that was supposed to be simple. Fans also began creating memes and GIFs, using her words as motivational mantras. Confidence isn't measured by a few losses became a quote shared not just among tennis enthusiasts, but in broader online communities, inspiring anyone facing criticism or doubt. The phrase captured the imagination of people worldwide, turning a fleeting interview moment into a rallying cry for resilience. Even fellow athletes noticed. Colleagues who had faced similar scrutiny praised her ability to remain calm and measured. They remarked on the subtle power in her delivery. No shouting, no anger, no excuses, just clarity and strength. Many said it was rare to witness such maturity in someone so young, and that the incident would become a defining chapter in her career, shaping her public image for years to come. But with rising attention came inevitable scrutiny. Some critics argued that her reply, though confident, was calculated and rehearsed, suggesting that the young star was using media tactics to craft her persona. Yet for the overwhelming majority, the focus was on her courage, the way she refused to let an insult undermine her self-respect. This duality of public perception only added to the drama, keeping the conversation alive across forums, social media feeds, and sports networks. By the end of the day, what started as a routine Q&A had escalated into a worldwide event. Alex Eala had achieved something extraordinary. She had taken a moment meant to provoke and transformed it into a statement of power, resilience, and identity. The tennis world, the media, and fans everywhere were now watching her closely, waiting to see how she would respond next, not just on the court, but in life beyond it.
The days following the viral exchange were a whirlwind for Alex Eala. What had begun as a brief post-match interview had transformed into an international talking point. Sports websites, fan forums, and social media platforms buzzed nonstop, dissecting every word, every expression, every pause. For Alex, the challenge was no longer just about tennis. It was about navigating a storm of public opinion, balancing support and criticism with the poise that had become her trademark. Support poured in from all directions. Fellow athletes praised her restraint and courage, highlighting how rare it is for a young player to face direct provocation with such composure. Commentators called her response a masterclass in dignity under pressure, and fans celebrated her as a symbol of strength, resilience, and intelligence. The Philippines, in particular, took immense pride in her, with headlines across national media emphasizing how she had shut down criticism with elegance and turned insult into empowerment. Yet, as often happens in moments of global attention, backlash also emerged. Some journalists and commentators questioned whether Alex's response was appropriate, claiming it was overly pointed or confrontational. Critics argued that her words could be seen as calculated, suggesting that young athletes shouldn't engage directly with media provocation. A small segment of viewers debated whether the reporter's question was fair, framing the incident as a clash between journalistic scrutiny and athlete sensitivity. These discussions added tension, keeping the story alive long after the interview itself had ended. The incident also sparked broader conversations about ethics in sports journalism. Questions arose. Were reporters crossing the line when phrasing questions to provoke emotional responses? Were young athletes, particularly women, subjected to unnecessary scrutiny or disrespect? Alex's moment had inadvertently become a case study, prompting discussions not only about media conduct, but also about respect, fairness, and the pressures faced by rising stars in competitive sports. For Alex, the most important response was internal. She didn't engage in online arguments or public rebuttals. She let her composure speak for itself. Instead of reacting defensively, she focused on training, performance, and maintaining the standards she had set for herself. In interviews that followed, she calmly reflected on the incident, emphasizing that her words were not meant to attack anyone, but to assert her confidence and resilience. It's not about them. It's about staying true to myself, no matter the situation. As the fallout continued, the incident took on a life of its own. Memes, clips, and reactions multiplied across platforms. Young fans used her words as motivation. Athletes cited her example in discussions about mental toughness. Commentators revisited the exchange repeatedly, analyzing every nuance. The world had witnessed something rare, a moment in sports that transcended competition, becoming a lesson in confidence, dignity, and the power of presence. By the end of the week, it was clear that the backlash had not diminished Alex's impact. If anything, it amplified it. The controversy, intended or not, had cemented her status as a rising star with not only exceptional talent, but also extraordinary character. In the midst of praise and criticism alike, Alex had demonstrated that true strength isn't measured solely in wins and losses, but in the ability to maintain composure, command respect, and rise above every challenge, on the court and off.
The meltdown that went viral was more than a single moment. It became a defining chapter in Aryna Sabalenka's story. Across the tennis world, fans, analysts, and fellow athletes debated what it meant for her career, her image, and her legacy. Some saw it as a frightening display of volatility, while others saw the raw truth of a champion pushed to her limits. Either way, the event cemented Sabalenka's place not just as a dominant player, but as a complex human figure whose strengths and flaws coexist in equal measure. For Sabalenka, her legacy is now intertwined with emotion as much as it is with skill. Her power, athleticism, and competitive instinct remain unquestioned, but the world has also witnessed a vulnerability few had seen before. That vulnerability is part of what makes her relatable, part of what makes her story compelling. It is the reminder that even at the pinnacle of sport, the pressure, scrutiny, and internal battles never truly vanish. Her meltdown forced everyone to confront the reality that champions are human, capable of brilliance, but also susceptible to intense emotional strain. Yet beyond the criticism and viral clips lies a story of resilience. Sabalenka's ability to acknowledge her mistakes, apologize, and reflect on her actions demonstrates growth and self-awareness. These moments of introspection are vital for any athlete aspiring to maintain longevity at the top. By confronting her own emotional limits publicly, she turns a potentially damaging incident into a lesson in self-management, perseverance, and personal accountability. The question now isn't just whether she can control her outbursts, it's whether she can channel that energy into her game in a way that elevates her performance without repeating mistakes. Fans continue to debate her character, but many have come to appreciate the duality she embodies. Sabalenka is both fierce and human, dominating yet vulnerable, brilliant yet fallible. These contradictions make her story more than just a tale of tennis matches. They make it a story about humanity, ambition, and the pressures of competing at the highest level. Every smashed racket, every visible frustration becomes a window into the cost of greatness and the intensity of a champion's mind. As the season progresses and Sabalenka steps onto courts around the world, the memory of her meltdown lingers. Spectators watch not just for points or victories, but for signs of her emotional control, for moments where her fire might flare or her composure might hold. Her career is now a balancing act between brilliance and temperament, and every match becomes a chance to prove that passion can be harnessed without letting it consume her. In the end, Sabalenka's viral meltdown leaves the world with more than shock. It leaves a story of resilience, humanity, and reflection. Her legacy is not just measured in titles or rankings, but in the way she faces her inner battles and continues to fight on the court. The ultimate question remains, can Aryna Sabalenka fully master her emotions, turning her fire into unstoppable strength, or will the same intensity that makes her a champion also remain her most unpredictable challenge? Her story is far from over, And every fan, critic, and player knows one thing. When Sabalenka takes the court, it's not just a match. It's a window into the heart and mind of a true competitor.
Arena Sabalenka's viral meltdown was more than a moment of frustration. It was a glimpse into the pressures, passions, and vulnerabilities of a true champion. It reminded the world that even the strongest athletes are human, that intensity can inspire greatness, but also spark controversy. Her story is far from finished, and every match she plays will carry the echoes of that moment, a reminder of both the power and the responsibility that come with elite competition. What do you think? Is Sabalenka a fearless warrior, or is her fiery temperament a ticking time bomb under pressure? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this deep dive into tennis drama and want more stories of rivalries, controversies, and unforgettable moments, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an update.